He thought she was just another delivery worker, until he caught her crying in the rain, clutching a broken package and a child's empty lunchbox. The CEO, who hated every elegant woman in silk, suddenly found himself drawn to a tired mother with mud on her shoes. He didn't believe in love. She didn't believe she deserved any. Fate disagreed. The storm hit the city, without warning. By noon, the pavements were drowning and the skyscrapers were swallowed by gray clouds. People rushed to the nearest shelter, clutching designer umbrellas and expensive coats, but one figure didn't stop running. A woman in a faded delivery uniform, soaked to the bone, pushing her motorcycle through knee-deep water. That woman was Aliyah, 26 years old, single mother, breadwinner, fighter by necessity, dreamer only in secret. Her cap was slipping off, raindrops stung her eyes, and the cold twisted her stomach, but she didn't stop. The delivery must reach Phoenix Towers before 12:30 p.m. or her pay would be cut again. And today she couldn't afford even a rupee less. Her son was waiting for lunch money she still hadn't earned. She swerved toward the lobby, clutching the parcel tightly against her chest as if it were her last breath. Inside the golden tower, everything sparkled. Marble floors, fresh orchids, glass walls, warm lights. A world she had no place in. Aliyah's muddy shoes squeaked too loudly. Water dripped from her elbows. Her hands trembled as she caught her breath. The receptionist looked her up and down as if she were something unfortunate stuck to the floor. "Delivery?" he asked coldly. She nodded, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Package for Mr. Zahir Malik, top floor." At that exact moment, an elevator opened, polished silver doors parting like a stage. A group of elegantly dressed women stepped out, laughing dramatically, their heels tapping like expensive punctuation marks. They were models or influencers, or whoever could afford perfume that smelled like money. Aliyah instinctively stepped aside, shrinking in her soaked uniform, trying not to drip on their glittering dresses. One woman wrinkled her nose. "Ugh. They let anyone in here." Aliyah said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was safer. But someone else heard the comment. The man stepping out behind them froze mid-stride. Zahir Malik, CEO of Phoenix Corporation, cold, controlled, striking in a way that made people stop breathing. His tailored charcoal suit looked untouched by the storm outside. His face remained unreadable, carved from discipline and distance. Everyone in the lobby shifted when he appeared. Even the models straightened, instantly softening their voices. Except Aliyah. She didn't look at him at all. She didn't know he was the CEO. She didn't know he was watching. Zahir's gaze swept the lobby, searching for something he couldn't name. Then his eyes landed on her, the trembling delivery girl hugging a drenched parcel as if her life depended on it. He didn't blink. In a world full of polished, curated women trying to impress him, she was the only one who wasn't pretending to be anything. That alone made her impossible to ignore. The receptionist quickly stepped in front of Aliyah as if shielding the CEO from the sight of her. "Sir, deliveries go through the back entrance." "She shouldn't be here." Aliyah bowed quickly. "I'm sorry, sir. Please just take the package. I've been trying since morning. My son." Her voice cracked before she could stop it. She covered her mouth, horrified. She wasn't supposed to sound human here. Not vulnerable. Not begging. Zahir noticed the way her hands shook. He noticed the bruise on her wrist, the exhaustion lining her eyes, the rain dripping from her lashes. And he noticed, most sharply, the broken plastic lunchbox peeking out from her delivery bag. Something in him shifted. A cold place deep inside warmed strangely. But he said nothing. "Not yet." The receptionist grabbed the parcel from Aliyah. "Next time, use the back. Don't cause trouble." The words hit her harder than the rain outside. She nodded, biting the inside of her cheek to stop the tears. She turned to leave, and the parcel slipped from the receptionist's careless grip. It hit the marble floor with a dull, sickening thud. Aliyah dropped to her knees instantly. "No, no, no, no." Her voice broke completely. The box was dented, its seal damaged. A ruined delivery meant a fine. A fine meant no lunch money. No money meant her son would sleep hungry tonight. Her fingers trembled so hard she couldn't lift the package. Everyone else watched in silence. Everyone except Zahir. He stepped forward, the sound of his polished shoes echoing like a verdict. The receptionist froze. Zahir's voice was low, sharp as winter steel. "You dropped that. Not her." The receptionist swallowed. "Sir, it was an accident." "Aliyah." Zahir addressed her directly. His tone softened just barely. "Stand up." She stared at him in shock. How did he know her name? Oh, her name tag. Of course. She rose slowly, embarrassed by the puddle forming beneath her. Zahir took the damaged parcel from her hands, inspected it, and turned to the receptionist. "If I ever see you mishandle a delivery again, especially from someone who works harder than all of you combined, you're fired. Effective immediately." The man turned pale. Aliyah blinked rapidly. She had never been defended. Not like this. "Sir, thank you," she whispered. Zahir looked directly into her eyes. And for a brief, electric moment, the world around them disappeared. No storm, no lobby, no distance between power and survival. Just a CEO who hated fake people, and a mother who didn't know how to pretend. "Come upstairs," Zahir said. "You're delivering this to me personally." She entered the CEO's private elevator trembling, unaware she was stepping into a world that would flip her life upside down. He had never let any woman get close, not even by accident. Yet today, he held the elevator just so one exhausted delivery mom could catch her breath. The higher they rose in that silent elevator, the harder his heart fell. Aliyah hesitated at the elevator entrance, her soaked shoes leaving muddy marks against the shining floor. She wasn't supposed to be here. Delivery workers were never allowed anywhere near the private lift. But Zahir Malik stood inside, one hand holding the doors open, waiting only for her. Her throat tightened. "Sir, I can leave it here. I don't want to disturb." "You already delivered it," he said calmly. "Now come." The words were not harsh, just firm, steady, like a command wrapped in unexpected gentleness. Aliyah stepped into the elevator. It was warm inside. Too warm. Her cold, wet clothes began to steam slightly, and she folded her arms over her chest in embarrassment. But Zahir didn't look at her clothes. He looked at her eyes and the exhaustion hidden behind them. As the doors closed, the elevator hummed upward. Aliyah kept her gaze glued to the floor, but she could still feel the CEO's presence beside her, calm, powerful, silent. He was a man who controlled entire markets with a signature. She couldn't even afford a new lunchbox for her son. And still, he wasn't looking at her with disgust. "Who takes care of your child when you're working?" he asked suddenly. Aliyah stiffened. No one ever asked her about her life, especially not a man like him. "My neighbor," she said quietly. "An old auntie. She watches him when I have long routes." Zahir nodded slowly. "You looked very upset when the parcel fell. The fine would have been large." Aliyah's stomach twisted. "Half my day's pay." Zahir's jaw tightened, not in anger at her, but in anger at the system around her, something she didn't recognize but somehow felt. She quickly added, "But it's okay." "Really? I'm just tired." Zahir looked at her for real this time, turning his head slightly, studying her face. There was no makeup, no effort to impress. Just sincerity. Exhaustion. Strength disguised as softness. The elevator chimed. The doors opened to the top floor. Aliyah stepped out first, then instantly froze. The office was enormous. Glass walls revealing the storm raging outside, a view so high it made her dizzy. Everything was sleek and silent. It felt like stepping into a place carved out of a different universe. "This way," Zahir said. His steps were unhurried. Her steps felt like trespassing. In his office, he placed the damaged parcel on his desk. Aliyah stood awkwardly near the door, unsure if she should breathe. Zahir opened the box himself. "The product is intact," he said. "I'll approve it manually. You won't be fined." Her knees almost buckled. Relief washed over her, so suddenly she had to grip the door handle to stable herself. "Thank you," she whispered. You don't know what this means to me. Zahir turned toward her, slowly, as if her words had weight he wasn't prepared for. His expression softened again, barely noticeable, but there. I know what it's like to lose something important because of someone else's carelessness. Aliyah blinked. She never imagined a billionaire CEO would have anything in common with her. But the sadness in his eyes wasn't the kind that came from money problems. It came from loss. Still, she didn't ask. She didn't dare. The storm rumbled outside, shaking the glass. Aliyah glanced nervously at the clock. Sir, if I don't get back soon, my supervisor will cut my shift. I'll send you back, Zahir said. You're not going out in that weather alone. Her eyes widened. No, I can go. I'm used to rain, Not in those clothes, he said quietly. Only then did she remember. She was still dripping water onto his expensive floor. Aliyah looked down, horrified. Oh God, I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean. His voice cut through her panic, low and steady. Stop apologizing. She froze. Zahir walked to a cabinet, took out a clean towel, and handed it to her. Not tossed it. Not slid it across the table. Handed it to her directly, like she wasn't beneath him. No one should work in these conditions, he murmured. Aliyah wiped her face, hands trembling slightly. She had never been offered such simple kindness from someone above her. Zahir watched her quietly. Something about the way she wiped her eyes, tired but still gentle, pulled at him. Your son, he asked softly. How old is he? 6. Does he know how hard you work for him? Aliyah smiled for the first time, small and warm. He knows his mama can carry anything, even when she's tired. Zahir didn't smile back, but something in his eyes warmed, like a flame catching onto old wood. His own mother, once the only person he trusted, used to say that too. He looked away quickly. Aliyah folded the towel neatly and placed it on the table. Thank you again, sir. Really? I should leave now. Zahir walked her to the elevator himself. When the doors opened, she stepped in, but turned back for a moment. You didn't have to help me, she said softly. But you did. I'll remember that. Zahir's chest tightened unexpectedly. Most women he met said the opposite. You didn't help me enough. She said she would remember, even the little he did. Aliyah, he said quietly, if you ever need anything. The doors closed. Zahir exhaled slowly, staring at the metal surface as if it stole something with her. His reflection stared back, controlled, cold, powerful. But for the first time in years, he didn't recognize the man in the reflection. He thought he'd forget her after the elevator door closed, but instead, her tired smile kept replaying in his mind like a stubborn heartbeat. She returned to her world of struggle. He returned to his tower of power. But fate wasn't done with them yet. The next time they met, she wasn't delivering a package. She was collapsing on the sidewalk with hunger and exhaustion. For the rest of the day, Zahir Malik sat in his sleek, silent office, but couldn't concentrate. Contracts lay unsigned. Emails piled up. His assistant knocked twice, reminding him of the board meeting. He didn't respond to either. Instead, his mind kept drifting back to a soaked delivery girl gripping a broken parcel like it carried her last hope, to the bruise on her wrist, to the way she apologized for existing, and most of all, to the moment she smiled when she mentioned her son. It was ridiculous, he told himself. He barely knew her, but the feeling clung to him, something unfamiliar and unsettling. He had met hundreds of women, the polished, elegant, glamorous ones who floated around the world of CEOs like expensive butterflies. The kind of women who spoke sweetly, but stung when ignored. None of them stayed in his mind after a meeting. But Aliyah, with her muddy shoes and trembling hands. She wouldn't leave. Her image replayed like a scratch on a record he couldn't smooth out. Zahir loosened his tie, irritated at himself. Feelings were inconvenient. He didn't have time for impulses. He didn't trust them. He especially didn't trust women. Not after what his past taught him. But Aliyah didn't ask him for anything. She didn't try to impress. She didn't even look at him like he was a billionaire. She looked at him like he was just a person. And that unsettled him more than charm, ever could. By late afternoon, the storm faded. The sky cracked open, letting strands of sunlight drip through the clouds. Zahir left his office early, something he had never done. His employees whispered in confusion as he walked through the lobby. CEOs like Zahir did not leave before midnight. But he wasn't heading home. He wasn't heading anywhere he could name. He simply walked, as if his feet were following a thought he refused to admit. Meanwhile, across the city, Aliyah stood outside a tiny grocery store counting coins with shaking fingers. Her clothes were still damp. Her hair still smelled like rain. And her legs ached from carrying deliveries for hours. Just milk, she whispered to herself. If I buy milk, I can stretch rice enough for both of us tonight. Her son deserved more. He always deserved more. But today had been brutal. The near fine, the rain, the humiliation. And then the CEO, Zahir Malik. A man whose world she didn't even dare dream about. But his eyes, his voice, the way he defended her, it replayed in her mind, making her heart beat in ways she wasn't used to. She pushed the feeling aside. Rich men weren't for people like her. The last time she trusted a man, she ended up abandoned with a newborn. She didn't have room in her life for hope. She bought the milk. She stepped outside. Her phone buzzed. Supervisor. Double shift. Now. Or don't come tomorrow. Aliyah stared at the message, her heart sinking. She was exhausted. Her bones felt like they were melting inside her skin. But saying no meant losing her job. She breathed shakily and texted back. On my way. But as she rushed down the street, her vision wobbled. The world tilted sideways. Her heartbeat thundered strangely. She hadn't eaten since morning. Her legs felt hollow. And then, she stumbled. Her hand grabbed the side of a bench, trying to steady herself. The milk slipped from her bag, hit the ground, and rolled away. Her breath hitched. Her eyes blurred. She dropped to one knee. People walked by, glancing at her, avoiding her, stepping around her like she was part of the sidewalk. Her head spun. Her body wavered. Her lips whispered, "Not now, please not now." And she collapsed. Her knees hit the pavement. Her palms scraped against concrete. The world dimmed around her. Everything sounded far away. She tried to inhale, but air wouldn't come. Her son's face flashed in her mind. She couldn't faint now. Not here. Not alone. But her body didn't listen. Just a moment later, someone caught her before she hit the ground fully. A warm hand. A strong grip. A familiar scent, clean, crisp, expensive. Aliyah. Her eyes fluttered open weakly. Zahir knelt in front of her, his usually calm face shaken, his brows furrowed in alarm. What happened? Can you hear me? Her voice was barely a whisper. I just need a minute. You're pale, he said urgently. You're shaking. She tried to sit up, but her body refused. Did you eat today? He demanded. Aliyah looked away. That was answer enough. Zahir clenched his jaw, overrun with emotions he wasn't used to, anger at her situation, frustration at her suffering, and a fierce protectiveness he had no right to feel. He lifted her gently, as if she weighed nothing. She protested weakly. Sir, people are staring. I don't care. Aliyah blinked. No one had ever said that while holding her. Zahir picked up the fallen milk bottle, tucked it into her bag, then positioned her arms around his shoulders. You're coming with me, he said quietly. You need help. Sir, I can't. You're the CEO. I'm just. You're not just anything. His voice was deep, firm. Now hold on. And for the first time in years, Aliyah let someone else carry the weight she usually carried alone. He carried her into his car like she was something priceless, something no one had ever treated her as before. She was used to being invisible. Suddenly, the most powerful man in the city was watching her like she mattered. He told himself he was only helping, but his heart felt a different truth. Aliyah didn't remember the moment Zahir guided her into the back seat of his black SUV, nor the way his hand hovered near her head to keep it from hitting the doorframe. She was too tired, too weak. Her breaths came uneven, her vision blurry. The car smelled clean and warm, She sank into the leather seat, clutching her bag to her chest as if it were a life vest. Zahir sat beside her instead of the front, another shock. CEOs didn't sit in back seats with delivery workers. Lean back, he said softly. Aliyah shook her head. No, sir. I'm fine. I just need a minute. He looked at her fingertips. They were white from cold. He looked at her face, pale and drained. He looked at her uniform, soaked, wrinkled, clinging to her skinny frame. Don't say you're fine, Zahir said. You nearly fainted. Aliyah closed her eyes, embarrassed. I didn't want to cause trouble. You didn't, he said. Your body asked for help. I'm just listening. His words wrapped around her like a blanket she didn't know she needed. The driver glanced into the mirror, waiting. Zahir instructed. Home. Aliyah's eyes shot open. No. Please take me to the Phoenix branch instead. I have a double shift. If I don't go, they'll fire me. Zahir's jaw tightened. You're in no condition to work. If I don't, she whispered, my son won't eat tomorrow. There it was, the tiny crack in her strength that she rarely let anyone see. Zahir exhaled slowly. He wasn't used to feeling helpless. He was used to fixing business crises, firing people who crossed him, reshaping markets. But this was a problem money could fix. Yet somehow, money felt like the smallest thing he wanted to give her. I'll talk to them, Zahir finally said. You won't lose your job. You can't do that, she said in disbelief. Yes, I can. He wasn't boasting. He was stating a fact. But why, she whispered. Zahir looked at her. Really looked. Because you deserve better than collapsing on a sidewalk. Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not her ex, not her supervisors, not the world that constantly stepped around her. The car rolled smoothly through the city. Raindrops chased each other down the windows. Aliyah pressed her fingers against her forehead, trying to steady herself. Do you have anyone else? Zahir asked. Family? Friends? She shook her head. My parents passed away. And friends, I stopped having time for them. He nodded, though something inside him twisted. No one should face the world alone. Your son, he said softly. Who picks him up today? Her eyes widened. Auntie will keep him, but I should go soon. You will, he assured her. After you're stable. The car stopped in front of a quiet building. Not his mansion. Not the place the tabloids drooled over. This was a private apartment he used when he needed space. Aliyah frowned. Where are we? Somewhere safe, he replied. He helped her out, his hand steady on her shoulder. She leaned slightly against him. Not by choice, but because her legs still trembled. Inside, the apartment was warm, softly lit, smelling of cedar and something faintly citrus. It was elegant but not extravagant. It felt human. Zahir guided her to the kitchen island. Sit. She sat. He opened the fridge. You need food. Aliyah blinked. Sir, I can't. This is too much. You fainted because you didn't eat, he said, pulling out fruit, bread, and a carton of juice. This isn't charity. It's basic humanity. The words stung sweetly. He placed a plate in front of her. Eat slowly. She picked up the bread with trembling fingers. The first bite hit her like a shock. Warm, soft, real. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until food touched her tongue. Zahir watched her. Not in a judgmental way. Not the way rich people stared at the poor. He watched like he was trying to understand her. Not her struggle, but her strength. Every small detail, he noticed. The way she chewed quietly. The way her eyes softened when she tasted something warm. The way she kept looking at the clock, worried about her son. Halfway through the meal, her eyes lifted. I don't know why you're helping me. Zahir leaned slightly forward, elbows on the counter. Because you're trying to survive in a world that doesn't make space for people like you. She swallowed thickly. And because, he added, voice lowering, you didn't look at me like everyone else does. Like a billionaire? She asked with a sad smile. No, he said. Like a man. Aliyah's throat tightened. She looked down quickly. Zahir continued. People hide behind masks. Fake smiles, fake elegance, fake intentions. You were drenched, exhausted, trembling, and still tried to smile at me. Aliyah whispered. I didn't want to cause trouble. That, he said quietly, told me everything about the life you've lived. Silence settled between them, soft, fragile, honest. Then her phone buzzed. Aliyah checked it. Her son's voice message. Mama, when you coming home? He sounded tired, a little scared. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Zahir stood. I'm taking you to him. She looked up startled. Sir, you don't have to. I want to. The simplicity of the words hit her harder than anything else. He wasn't helping out of duty. He was helping because something in him, something he had buried for years, responded to her pain like it was his own. Let's go, he said gently. Aliyah stood slowly. For the first time in her life, someone powerful wasn't walking ahead of her, expecting her to follow. Zahir walked beside her. Together. Her son ran into the CEO's arms before he ran into hers, and that changed everything. The boy trusted him instantly. She trusted no one. The CEO didn't know which scared him more. This wasn't supposed to happen. Rich men didn't step into her world. But he did. And once he crossed that line, his heart refused to turn back. The sky had finally cleared by the time Zahir's SUV pulled up in front of a small, worn-down apartment block. Aliyah stared out the window, her breath unsteady. Her son's voice message still echoed inside her, squeezing her heart with guilt. She wasn't supposed to break down. She wasn't supposed to need help. She wasn't supposed to let a stranger, especially a CEO, enter her personal life. But here she was, sitting beside him, trembling for reasons that had nothing to do with hunger now. Zahir stepped out first and held the door open, not like she was fragile, but like she deserved dignity. It was a small gesture, but it shattered something in her chest. He followed her up the narrow staircase, careful, silent, as if sensing she didn't want the neighbors to stare. She hesitated before unlocking the door. Shame crept up her spine. Her home was clean but tiny, just one room with 2 beds pushed into a corner, a stove by the window, and a little desk cluttered with school papers. This was a world so far from his that she felt dizzy. Mama. A small figure ran out from the room the second the door opened. Her son, Denial, 5 years old, barefoot, wearing an oversized t-shirt that hung to his knees. Aliyah smiled through tears. Baby. But Denial didn't reach her first. He stopped halfway, staring at the tall man behind her with wide, curious eyes. Zahir froze. Children never ran to him. They usually hid behind their parents, intimidated by the sharpness of his expression, the coldness of his gaze. But Denial stepped closer. Something about Zahir, maybe the quiet strength, maybe the calm presence, didn't scare him.
It drew him in.
Are you Mama's friend? Denial asked innocently. Zahir blinked. Friend? That word had never been applied to him in any soft context. Aliyah's heart jumped. Denial, sweetheart, this is. Zahir knelt down, lowering himself to the boy's height. My name is Zahir. Denial studied him with the seriousness only children possess. You look important, he declared. Zahir huffed a quiet laugh. And you look brave. Denial grinned instantly, proud. Aliyah felt her chest twist painfully. No man had ever spoken to her son like that, gently, respectfully, sincerely. Zahir looked up at her. He's a good kid. She swallowed. He's everything. A faint warmth flickered in Zahir's usually cold eyes. Something protective. Something dangerous. He rose slowly. Do you need anything for him? Food? Medicine? Aliyah shook her head quickly.
No.
I can manage. But her voice wavered. Zahir looked around the tiny apartment. The worn furniture, the single fan rattling softly, the empty containers near the sink. He didn't say anything insulting or pitying. He simply understood. Denial tugged at Aliyah's sleeve. Mama, I was hungry, but Auntie gave me biscuit. Guilt stabbed through her. I'm so sorry, baby. Mama had a hard day. Zahir watched the way she knelt to Denial's level, cradling his cheeks like he was the only reason she breathed. Something shifted deep inside him again. He turned away slightly, trying to mask the emotion that rose uninvited. Aliyah whispered, "I'll make you rice. Just give me." Her knees buckled. Zahir stepped forward instantly, catching her arm before she fell. Denial gasped. "Mama." "I'm okay," she murmured, though she was clearly not. Zahir guided her gently toward the bed. "Sit." She sat, embarrassed. "I just haven't rested." He looked at her, then at Denial. "Where's your school uniform?" Denial pointed to a little drawer. "There." Zahir crouched again, opening the drawer. He didn't comment on the faded shirt, the worn collar, the threadbare trousers. He simply inspected them like they were the most normal things in the world. "Do you like school?" Zahir asked. Denial nodded vigorously.
Yes.
"I want to be a scientist and fix rockets and make Mama proud." Zahir's chest tightened. "I'm sure you already do." Aliyah looked away, wiping her eyes secretly. Zahir stood and faced her. "He needs stability. And you need rest. Let me arrange something." "No," she whispered instantly. "Please don't. I don't want charity." "This isn't charity," Zahir said calmly. "This is support. I don't want to owe anyone." Zahir stepped closer, his voice dropping to something deep, steady, unshakable. "You won't owe me anything. I'm helping because I want to." Her breath caught.
He meant it.
He wasn't flirting. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't like the men who abandoned responsibility and called it freedom.
He cared.
And that terrified her. Zahir softened his tone. "I'll arrange proper meals for both of you. I'll speak to your supervisor. And if you're comfortable, I can have someone watch Denial during your shifts, so he's never alone." Aliyah's throat tightened. "Zahir, this is too much." "No," he said quietly. "What you've carried alone for years, that was too much." Silence wrapped around them. Denial climbed onto the bed beside his mother and leaned his little head on her shoulder. "Mama, this uncle is nice. Can we keep him?" Aliyah's face flushed scarlet. Zahir actually choked on air. She quickly scolded, "Denial." But Denial tilted his head.
"What? He helped you."
"He looks strong. And rich. Maybe he can fix our cooker." Zahir laughed, a real, warm laugh that startled even him. Aliyah hid her face. But when she peeked between her fingers, she found him looking at her with something new in his eyes. Something tender, something protective, something dangerous to a lonely heart. And in that tiny, dimly lit apartment, the cold CEO realized he wasn't stepping into her world out of pity. He was already sinking into it. And he wasn't sure he wanted a